talking about small businesses, I mean, we work with small businesses, and the ultimate small business would be like a little mom and pop shop. So if you had a little like boutique or something like that, what would you sell? You like a fishing store or like a little art store?
IT. Well, it is kind of funny. I mean, I feel like that'd probably be it, but I'm a nerd, so it would probably be something gaming related would be my alternative. My wife is in the floral industry, and she's always said that she would love to have a floral shop with me, which is not my interest. So I would be more like flowers and gaming. Somehow we got to have the guys have to have a place to go and find something interesting while the ladies are shopping.
I don't know.
That's
I did always say that if I get burned out from cybersecurity, I want to go work in a greenhouse. So I might be over there in the flower section. So I'll be your wife's first customer over there. I was gonna say probably some type of like garden center was gonna be my answer, but I'm also a geek, and so I feel like I could possibly go try and buy up all the super old connections for like computers and just make it available where if you can't find something at Target or something like that, come here and I'll help support your wildly old technology and that one very obscure cable that you've been looking for forever. I might have it. Don't want to support old technology here at work, but it'd be fun just to try and find the most obscure connections and cables and cards and all that kind of stuff.
I'm sure we still got floppy disks in the office somewhere. We need to be able to read what's on them.
I have a smaller micro center.
Fun fact, I used to work for a company that is still using microfiche. So
how about you, August?
For me, it would be I will take the sports advocate route and do a trading card and collectibles and like memorabilia store. We had one up where I went to college, and I spent a pretty solid amount of time there. Me and the owner were on a first name basis, and I guess I should have even worked there because I spent so much time there, but that would probably be it for me.
I know where everything is.
Yeah, pretty much.
What about you, Kelsey?
I think I have to go semi-stereotypical and say bookstore, but like a cute little bookstore. If anybody's ever been to Wild Rumpus in Minneapolis or Linden Hills, technically the neighborhood it's in, there's like animals and cats walking around. And I'm like, yep, not to bring it back to my crazy cat lady self, but 100%. I'm like, oh, cozy reading nooks and the smell of books and then random furry animals. I was like, yep, if I wasn't doing this, I'd be doing that.
That's a good one. I came up with this question and I feel like I don't have an answer. I like to go to like the candle shops just because I like to smell all the candles. So maybe something like that, or I like sell candles or like honey. Like little interesting like food items, that you can't get anywhere else. I think that would be fun to do. Mostly because that's the stuff I want to buy. I just buy at my own store.
And I want a candle. Yeah, 100%. I'm like, open that store, I'm buying from you.
Yes.
Well, Kelsey, you like knit or crochet, right? You do one of them, right?
That's a good answer.
I was gonna say because in Stillwater there used to be a yarn shop, and you would go there and just watch, a bunch of the ladies just sitting around in a circle, having their conversation and crocheting or knitting, and that seemed like a lot of fun, right? And so,
I
don't do it myself, but that would be a nice, cute little location, right? So I'd still be at
the bookstore
Todd's
can be
garden
next to the yarn shop, next to the candle shop, and then across the street we'll have all of your shops, and the women can, not to be stereotypical one way or another, everybody can go on both sides of the street, y'all. We'll
you can go wherever you want. Yeah. I love it. Well, talking about small businesses, I mean, that is the world that we service. And today we're talking about protecting your small business, specifically with PAM solutions. So today, Kelsey and myself are joined by Todd, our COO and CISO, Nate, our Director of Cybersecurity, and August, our SOC technician. And I'm gonna throw a challenge. I want like in 30 seconds, so short, what is a PAM solution? And then we can go in deeper, but
I
real
better take
quick.
this one because Todd won't finish it in 30
I was
seconds.
gonna say
This is the challenge.
zero chance neither Nate or I can do it in 30 seconds. I think it's gonna
Cool.
have to be August.
Me? All right. PAM standing for Privileged Access Management, basically locking down your environment from having a local admin running on your device for all users, so they can't run any programs as administrator or have those elevated rights to make changes to your computer, such as I'm blanking, like your registry editor or opening PowerShell or command prompt or stuff like that. So
Nice.
That's
Look,
solid.
did it. That's awesome.
boom.
Great job.
And that's the end of the podcast. Thanks for coming.
All
That's
right.
it. Thank you for coming.
See you later.
If you have any questions, no.
Where's my outro music?
So if you had to expand on that, because I know that Todd and Nate are both like itching to expand, what would you sort of add to that?
I guess one of the main things there is that allowing end users to have full admin access to their systems is extremely dangerous. And that's not me trying to overplay the importance of a PAM, and it's also, you are talking to a security person, right? And it is kind of one of those core foundational things, but people don't always understand the true severity of it. And so this is one of the things where it goes far beyond just that the users could potentially make a change to their system, right? Or install new software on that system as well. But we know that phishing attacks have been greatly on the rise over the years. A lot of different metrics that you can look out there, but we do see it continue to spike up, especially during the shift to remote workforce. But as this is happening, there's core data and files on your system that manage credentials. So your devices, they store passwords temporarily, so that way they can either minimize the number of passwords that someone has to type in to be able to log in, but then also in terms of how do you log in offline, right? If you have no internet, can you still get in there? There's attacks, and I'm not going to go into depth of them, called like pass the hash attacks, where if someone had local admin, they had someone potentially get into that device, you can take those administrative credentials and then go log straight into the most privileged servers in the environment. And so a normal user wouldn't typically intend to do that, but it makes it extremely easy to bypass all other security controls in the environment just because they have local admin.
Yeah, I'll back up a little bit. We do love our acronyms, so we did PAM with, thankfully August explained it. I know we get into SMB too, which is small and medium businesses. But kind of backing up on the privileges is, most people probably feel what privilege access looks like in the form of the UAC control, and it's just an acronym. Couldn't tell you what it is. Access control, but I don't know what it is.
User access control, I believe.
And what that is like when you get a new software, you're going to install QuickBooks or the latest and greatest TurboTax on your own home PC. You go to install it and it pops up and says, "Hey, are you sure you want to do this?" And of course, everybody says yes without thinking about it. That is the initial kind of control that Windows puts into it. Unfortunately, the bad guys are incredibly clever, and they go, "How can I abuse everything?" Which gets into the stuff that Nate was talking about on the deep level of pass the hash and other types of things. But essentially, the reason why a lot of people tend to have administrative rights is because it's convenient. I want to update my version of Adobe, whatever the case may be. Chrome is bugging me for an update, whatever that may be. Those types of things are just hitting yes, please move on and stop bothering me. It's very, very convenient. we have some very technical individuals on our team, and it's no surprise that they all want to have the privileged access to do what they want. They're smart enough not to click on the bad thing, et cetera, et cetera. That being said, as Nate said, we're super paranoid. We're not okay with that. You're going to have to deal with some layer of friction just to slow you down enough so you don't click the thing and get us into trouble. So on the deep level, the reason you have privilege is because it allows you to do everything, right? It gets you the ability to do the install. The bad side of it is it's exactly what August and Nate were saying is you can do a whole bunch of stuff with admin. You can edit the registry. You can install additional things you didn't mean to do. The level of abuse that can be had from having admin privileges is, they call it the keys to the kingdom for a reason.
So I think we could dive deeper into like benefits and challenges, but before we do that, oftentimes I'll ask, so does everybody need this? And then the answer is always yes. So I'm going to pose it in, is there anyone like my little mom and pop shop that has like 5 employees? Is this still right for that? Or is there kind of a line where yes, you should have it, or no, it's not, maybe not right? Who needs this?
Well, we're in security, so the answer is yes, everybody needs it.
Yeah.
So the reason why there is such a solution as privileged access management is because to be safe, you really shouldn't use that admin privilege day in and day out. And for the most part, you really don't need that. You don't need the keys to the kingdom to open up a Word document or answer your email, whatever the case may be. And so if you had the ability to say, day in and day out, I'm going to use an account called Todd, but when I need to install software, I'm going to log in as Todd admin, that would be ideal. Most people aren't willing to do that. That's inconvenient. So the tool itself is a process of automating that transition for you. So you can be logged in as Todd, normal user, and it says, hey, are you sure you want to do this? This tool is intercepting that and saying, I have the ability to make sure it's a secure transaction without giving you full-blown access to everything. So my answer is yes, but I'll let the other two expand on that or disagree with me if that's the case that may be.
I would say also yes, kind of going off on Todd there, since small and medium businesses are the most attacked surfaces for businesses, I would say that they would be a higher risk than some of those enterprise levels. So
yeah, one expansion on that is the enterprise probably already has it.
Yeah, exactly.
My answer is it depends, and I'm gonna default more towards the yes. So there are some very slight things that I could see where you maybe decide not to. And Todd already touched on it briefly, is if you're willing to do the due diligence on removing those and ensuring that you aren't running something malicious, but it quickly starts to fail when you start talking about the long-term usability of that. So for example, maybe you are a very small organization and there's one person there that's allowed to do the permissions to be able to elevate or install new software. What happens when they're on vacation? What happens when they're sick? What happens, in those instances? Does the business have to stop to do something basic? Because at that point, you're not approving new common items. So for example, it could be a Google Chrome update. It could be a driver update. Maybe the wireless is a little finicky. Maybe a USB driver needs to be updated. Updating just the OS to the latest and greatest security patches, right? Something basic like that. As soon as you're gone from the office, it becomes extremely difficult. And then it does start prompting you fairly often if you're trying to do some of this basic stuff. Again, that's where Todd said that when you implement something like a PAM solution, it can go pull from global policies and global items saying that I know that anytime something is signed by HP or Dell for those driver updates, just automatically let it through. There is no extra prompt. Anytime there is a Chrome update or a security update to the system, allow those through without consistently inundating the end users for admin credentials. So you can get through it without it. It's just more of a burden on the administrative side.
Yeah, definitely. So we talked a little bit about what it is and who needs it. Um, we touched a little bit on the benefits and some on the challenges. If you want to, you know, we've talked about MFA before, and that's such an easy, cost efficient. Everyone needs to do that. Is there any challenges that people are going to face trying to implement this? What does that look like? If a business says, yes, let's do it, what do they do?
Yeah, August, I'd say you probably have the most experience actually helping implement it, but small and medium, I would say, are pretty dang easy to get this implemented. But I'll let you go into more depth there.
Yeah, it is kind of going off of what Nate was saying about usability, and when your admin is gone or out sick, it's when a user's trying to install something like even a SaaS solution, um, and just a basic install if they're out of office. You can't get that installed. And if you don't have an overarching MSP managing your IT, it can be very frustrating for a user to not be able to do their basic job. So I would say that could be a limitation of just availability to the user to get their work done. But I would say that it's still pros and cons. Pros still outweigh the cons at that point. But yeah, I would say 100% availability is the limitation.
Yeah, housekeeping, SaaS is software as a service. When it comes to SMBs, I don't want everybody to just focus solely on mom and pops, because those do exist, and that to me they still mention, right? So I mentioned my wife runs a flower shop. Could she use it? Absolutely. But other places where you may see a little bit more friction is we do work with a fair number of banks that may be in that smaller category. And then sometimes they outsource some of their tools to a larger organization, or their core banking, as it's referred to. And in some of those cases, there are things that happen in the background of some of their systems that in the cybersecurity world you would consider to be malicious. And for example, one tool in particular, when you launch it, it tries to run, this is a little bit older technology, they call it a batch file, and it triggers this tool on the outside of the application to run, if you will. And that is typically not something you want to do in the cyber world. Unfortunately, whatever, in this particular instance, that is normal behavior for that particular tool set. So there is nuance in it. If you just went in and you installed the PAM solution, it may keep you from doing some of those kinds of things, going, hey, that's not normal. That other thing shouldn't require that permission. And you just need to work through it. But the tools are designed in such a manner where they understand that modern work happens at a different pace, and that the full blown bringing a company to its knees is not all right. So there's usually kind of a monitoring process, if you will, before doing a full implementation that you can kind of walk through. And of course, you can always rely on experts like August to help get you up to speed as fast as humanly possible.
Yeah, one of the things that I did want to mention as well is, especially the small medium businesses that are in a regulated space. Todd did mention this with the core banking, but one of the main challenges that you see in these different industries is that the auditors, the regulators, they will say you are not allowed to give your users local admin, but then your critical core system requires admin to be able to run effectively, or maybe even start. CIT, we used to use an application for all of our remote access. It required local admin. But for our own compliance, we can't do that, right? So there's a conflict there, and that's where the tool comes in and can solve both of those issues. That's where, again, we do that with the banks, we do that with other some of the manufacturing firms. I know that sometimes they will have software in order to allow the shop floor to run or do AutoCAD designs, maybe to create the next product there. Those ones typically require admin to be able to go modify some of the registry files when there's a new update. Again, that becomes an issue. And so that's where, again, these solutions are just a very nice middle layer to solve the interaction between the user and the system without really getting in their way too much.
So it's been a very kind of basic overview. Is there anything about these PAM solutions, either benefits or challenges or implementation, that you want to dive a little bit? I know we're kind of running out of time, and we'll definitely come back to this in the future. But is there anything that you want to add or cover as we kind of finish up here?
I would say just implementation wise, it's a pretty easy rollout for most organizations since like I think Todd was touching on it briefly of when the applications get rolled out into your environment, that your PAM solution normally like learns your environment at that point, and then you can make edits within there, look at what's being denied, what's being allowed, and then also what applications are running that local admin. I think there's a podcast about banks and what applications they're running as local admin. And I know that it's nice to make those edits to lock down your environment, but give that one application local admin, I think, as well as what Nate was touching on. So implementation is pretty easy. Learning your environment is easy, and then switching it on when you're all said and done. So.
Yeah, we don't get into it often, but the whole point of the podcast is really education, right? So when it comes to streamlining the implementation, there is a benefit of working with an organization like CIT. As we're talking about tools like this, August is giving you the guts of this is what it can do, this is how it can do it, and we learn a lot about it. The nice thing about teams like us is we work with a lot of banks. So if we know what I was talking about earlier, whether it's a batch file or something along those lines, we can take that knowledge and apply it to all of the banks, and we can create global policies, if you will, and we can say this is the standard best practice for a bank, if you will. That is incredibly benefit, and it will absolutely streamline the process of implementation, and it'll get you in the best place as fast as possible, as I mentioned a little bit earlier. The one other little challenge that I know comes up often is because every organization is at their own journey, their own level of maturity, sometimes it's not something you may have planned for. And as such, you just kind of got to go, okay, well, what does that look like? What does this costing look like? And if you can't afford it today, start thinking about how you budget it into the next year, because it is something that is important. As I mentioned in that journey aspect, there's a 1A, 1B that we talk about constantly, and that's EDR and MFA. Get those in place as fast as reasonably possible. And then we start talking about what's next. And this is one of those items that definitely falls into that category of what's next.
I was going to make a joke here because so for those just listening to the audio, Todd and I are wearing the same shirt here today, but then I was just about to start talking about how the shameless plug of we work with all these different organizations that are in similar spaces. So that is one of the main benefits of if you're going to look to work with, CIT for a solution like this. So August had mentioned that typically these PAM solutions, they'll go learn your environment. Not all of them do that. And so that's another differentiator is there are solutions out there that can accommodate this, but it's very manual on inventorying all your systems, finding out what software, what drivers, what, other applications are there, what devices is it running on. And then you have to go manually build all these policies. That's why CIT found the solution that we did. We use it internally. We, work with all these other organizations to also do that. And then, like Todd mentioned, is we have global policies. We have different subset of policies that maybe only apply to your organization, all the way down to a particular user on one workstation for those permissions. But that's the benefit is if we ever see something like an HP update or something that's just very basic, it's everything checks out properly, we can apply that at a global level potentially when another customer requests it. So then by the time you ever try and run that same piece of software, it's just going to allow it through. There is no approval process or anything like that. So it's wildly efficient once you start taking a look at how this gets deployed in scale.
I feel like we had quite a high overview, and this is worth going into again in the future. So if you definitely check out our website, watch our podcast for more information. I'd like to thank Todd, Nate, and August for joining us today. If you have questions about these PAM solutions, or you want to talk to these people, you want to learn more, please reach out to us at info@cit-net.com or head out to our website at cit-net.com/podcast. And we'll be back next week with an all-new episode.